Hello everyone, I'm Chris Mozillo, Socio-son, and today I'm going to be talking about video games. By which I mean more so the view of video games. Can video games just be fun? Can video games be art? Can video games be art and fun at the same time? Can video games be planes? No, of course not, because they're completely separate things, but you know, gotta check. So, can video games just be fun? Of course! I mean, yeah, pretty much. Like, they can just be fun. However, they can be oh so much more. This all boils down to what your view of video games is. If your view on video games is, you know, they're just toys and fun little doodads, then yeah, I mean, that can be fun if you get enjoyment from just pressing buttons for your eyes to receive light and your ears to hear colour and sound even. And, you know, if that evokes a positive response in your brain alongside the vibrations of the controller placed firmly within your lap, although that one may be a little something else, then yeah, video games can just be fun. As much as people want to try and fool themselves, there's no real getting away from the fact that the video games you're playing are oh so much more, even if you refuse to acknowledge its existence. Why can't I just have fun running and gunning around aimlessly through my favourite first-person shooter? I mean, who doesn't want to do that? I mean, what's more fun than aimlessly running and gunning around in your favourite first-person shooter? But whoa, let's take a step back here. You're just aimlessly running and gunning around in your favourite first-person shooter. Is that not a little bit weird, that you're just aimlessly shooting down all the bad guys for nothing more at all? With, you know, just there's no connotations there at all? It's hard to believe. If you take a look, most first-person shooters are trying to make some comment or other about war in general. Sure, some of them handles incredibly badly, normally by having the main villain turn cartoonishly bad, and cartoonishly evil at the very last second, so any talk he was saying about war being a terrible thing sort of overshadowed by the fact that he's now just going to decide to nuke the entire planet, because that way there can be no more wars and everybody wins, right? The thing is, you can add a lot of depth to pretty much any game that exists. Take like, even classics like Mario and Sonic. Take Mario for example. There's a big fan theory that's been going around that Bowser's actually a freedom fighter fighting for the ex-inhabitants of the Mushroom Kingdom who've recently been kicked out via some new dictator and or disease that's plaguing their land. And you are playing as just some mercenary who's fighting for the bad guys. And you're actually the bad guy this entire time. Oh! Or if you want slightly more well-grounded theories, with its Sonic and how the game's actually about the environment and the effects that humans are having on the environment. You know, can't get away from this shit. Now, some of you may just be dismissing this and going like, psh, whatever, like, they're just fun games. Why can't they just be like a fun game? And, you know, it sort of matters and sort of doesn't at the same time. Now, a lot of games, even from, like, Japan, often find themselves with major themes of, like, nuclear weapons or burning fossil fuels. You know, with these major themes of, like, the environment and such, like, that can't be just a coincidence, can it? In the same way that a lot of, Western-developed games seem to be about Americans shooting guns at the bad guys forever. Obviously it matters, as it's just the creators trying to get their own socio-political views across and expressed through the only medium that they can control, being video games. And whether it be like them actively trying to do this and directly trying to express their views, or more indirectly where it just kind of happens and it seeps into their work, it will always happen. There's no way you can really create a world without your own views seeping into that world. It's very difficult to create a piece of work without your own socio-political views getting their way into it. If you have a certain view of the world and you're creating your own world yourself, then your view of the world will obviously be reflected into your own work and how you think the world operates, because it's kind of just how creating stuff works. In my opinion, a lot of this kind of boils down to the people who would define themselves as gamers are now kind of feeling like they may be overshadowed and not able to really define themselves as the thing they define themselves as. If you used to have a very keen interest in video games, that mostly was due to you playing a lot of games. That's what led you to have a keen interest in video games, is you just played games and that was it. However, now the people who are kind of more keen advocates of gaming aren't so much people who play a lot of games, but instead people who think about games a lot. People who are more willing to take an in-depth look into a game and just spend hours thinking about a game that they've played. Because they've got an interest in video games. Just playing video games isn't enough to really consider yourself having an interest in games, because everyone plays games, right? Everyone plays video games. Some may not play obscure games, some may not play certain other games, but everyone plays them. But not everyone thinks about them to a great level of depth and tries to observe them as pieces of art, or seeing what the creators are trying to get across within their creation. I feel it's just people who want to find themselves through the medium of which they played are sort of no longer being able to do so, because they just liked playing games, but they can no longer really define themselves as liking games because everyone likes games. Whilst those who are now being defined as a game enthusiast are something much greater, who take a whole new meaning to video games and try and look into the deep, dark thoughts of the creator through their medium and how it is expressed. And it's just, people, butthurt nerds basically, losing their title of gamer. People who now take a very vested and enthusiastic approach to video games will see a game and they may see an ocean fully to explore with untold depths and mysteries to it, while others may end up just seeing a moderately large-sized puddle and they're perfectly fine in just splashing around in this puddle because splashing's got a good mechanic to it. Then really they're just kind of turning their eye and purposefully trying to ignore the fact that there's something much greater behind them, which is the giant fucking ocean that they just don't want to try and get involved with because it may not interest them, or they just don't like what they'll see because it may just be a reflection of themselves that they're not entirely happy with. There are a large amount of pseudo-intellectual games now that have been released where the sort of socio-political meanings that they're trying to get across are less than subtle, but they still talk about sort of complex issues, sort of. These issues are not exactly difficult to interpret as they're thrown right directly into your face, such as seen in Bioshock Infinite, where it's not exactly difficult to realise what they're saying is you're just being hit repeatedly in the face with a ball about them, like you're some unfortunate batter in your batting sport of choice. But it becomes to the point where a lot of gamers tend to think that there are some games that are allowed to be sort of intellectual or have a lot of depth to them and have commentary about social-political relations, while others are perfectly, not involved in this idea of having a reflection of our actual humanity like a fucking piece of art normally does. And it's this weird mix and match where only the games with a very clear-cut message, and where the message is obviously a lot more agreeable because it's normally racism is bad and religion's pretty quirky, am I right guys? But it's this mentality that only a few games are allowed to be considered art pieces because they may have a very unique art style to them that makes them look more like a painted painting, or they may be a very easy to understand and digest message behind them. But really, that's not true. Every game can be considered art. Every game has a hidden depth to it behind the creator. Everything will always have that there. Even something like FIFA, for example. Why is there still no women's football in FIFA? What's up with that? That's not to say that the games that have a very clear-cut message aren't good, and the ones that are highly regarded as pieces of art aren't good as pieces of art, obviously. They're just more direct in their approaches, which leads to some people just feeling because they've understood this very direct piece of art, they believe that they just have this level of superiority about themselves, and which obviously often leads to their pseudo-intellectual ideas, maybe like mine, where they just think that this is how it is because I played a video game once that dealt with semi-complex ideas and I understood it. Therefore, I know everything there is about video games. No matter how quirky or even mundane the video game is, there's always some level of socio-political message behind it, because that's how creating things works. Like, even games created by these large and faceless corporations have some level of socio-political message behind them, just normally terrible ones, such as hating on women. Again, this doesn't mean games can't be fun though. They can still be fun. There are a lot of bright and colourful games that are just enjoyable to play, and other games where the mechanics are, enough of a challenge that you get the sense of accomplishment from just mastering them. And not every game has to have this massively large and grand message behind it that's sort of forced down your throat. They could just be aiming to be fun. But that doesn't mean that sort of socio-political message isn't there. There's no way for it to be around it. You should just always make sure to question just every game you play and what's it trying to get across or not get across. Just always question a game. Question me, question that. Like, what are my views and how are they affecting this video? Who even knows? Hello, and thank you for watching my video. If you liked it, make sure to let me know in the comment section. Or if you have your own thoughts on the subject, why not start up a discussion? Also in the comment section down below. Make sure if you want to check out some of my other stuff, because that would be pretty cool. But you don't have to. Anyway, thank you and goodbye. Yeah, within pretty big of level of reason is... that's what it was. So, can video games just be annoyingly loud children?